Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the Raising Rices podcast. I'm so thankful that you are here today, whether you are driving in the car, folding another basket of laundry, washing dishes, or maybe working in your garden as it is summertime. I just want to thank you so much for inviting me into your day. It is always such a joy to spend time together. And I really sincerely pray that every episode encourages you to love the Lord more deeply and to build your home with a greater intentionality. So if you've been listening over the last few weeks specifically, you will already know that we've been talking a lot about Christian households. Last week, we talked about the idea that your home is your first ministry. We looked together at how God doesn't just work through big moments in life. He actually works through ordinary ones as well. And through things like family dinners and conversations in the car and chores and bedtime prayers, family worship for sure. And all of those little moments that don't seem very significant at the time really do add up to a greater vision and purpose for your family. And today, I just kind of want to build on that conversation because I think one of the greatest opportunities that we have as parents to disciple our children is something our culture often overlooks, and that is responsibility. Now, when you hear me say that word responsibility, maybe your mind immediately goes to things that you're personally responsible for, or maybe your mind goes towards things that the household is responsible for, and specifically maybe homemaking, and that thus leads you to chores. Maybe you picture children making their beds. That's their responsibility. That's their domain to learn to rule over their bed. Or maybe taking out the trash. That's something that's very doable for many children. Washing dishes is definitely a chore that we have in our family. Or feeding the dog, taking care of like an animal. So these are certainly parts of responsibility. But actually today, I want us to think much more broader and bigger than just chores. I want us to think of the word stewardship. The Bible tells us that everything we have that's been entrusted to us by God, like our home, our marriages, our children, our finances, that's a big one, right? Our jobs, our gifts, our time, our opportunities, even literally the breath in our lungs, all of it belongs to Him. It belongs to God. And we are simply the stewards of what He has placed into our care. And if that is true for us as adults, then one of the greatest gifts that we can give, we can impart into our children is learning how to steward responsibilities while they're still living in our homes. And I think, if I may be bold, one of the biggest mindset shifts that Darren and I have made over the years is realizing that we are not just raising children. We are raising future adults. We are raising brothers and sisters in Christ that we are going to walk this journey with far longer than when they are in our home and in our care. And that might sound like a small difference, like, oh, raising kids, raising adults, we're all raising something, right? No, but I think it really kind of like, just like I said, changes that mindset, the way that you are viewing those gifts, those things that you are stewarding in your home. And when I only think about today, my goal becomes making life easier for today in this moment. It's often quicker to do the job myself, right? It's often faster if I just load that dishwasher. It's easier if I fold the laundry and put it where it goes. And let me tell you, it is a lot less messy if I just make the bread myself or gather the eggs myself or weed the garden myself. But then I stop, and I have to stop, right? And I have to ask myself a question, a very serious question that I would encourage you to ask yourself as well. What am I preparing my children for if I'm doing everything for them? Because one day they're going to leave my home. And one day my boys will, Lord willing, become husbands and fathers. And one day my girls, Lord willing, will become wives and mothers and homemakers. And one day they'll have jobs, they'll have responsibilities, they'll have churches to serve at, neighbors to love, and children to raise themselves, Lord willing. And that all falls under learning how to be a good steward and have good stewardship over the things that the Lord entrusts them with. So if I spend 18 years, for example, doing everything for them, I have actually prepared them for what? What have I prepared them for? Have I prepared them to go and to enter into adulthood? Have I prepared them to be successful in this next season of their lives? I don't think I have. Not if I haven't equipped them and trained them and taught them, not specifically how to do each and everything. While I do believe that is part of a role as a homemaker, as a home educator, to teach how to do the things, but also it is a heart. It is a heart of stewardship. What comes out through the chores, through the responsibilities, is the practice of that heart condition of stewardship. And I think one of the greatest mistakes that we can make as parents is confusing helping our children with preparing our children. Right? Like sometimes we want to help them. We want to help them make life easier and have more fun and all those things. But are we preparing them? Sometimes I think helping them in the moment actually keeps them from growing into capable adults. If you solve every problem for them because you're helping them, you are not equipping them to become problem solvers, right? And sometimes that's hard because you have to sit as a parent with the fact that my child's going to struggle and they're going to have to struggle and work through this. And I just want to be absolutely clear that I don't mean just like, hey, my kid's drowning over there in the pool, I'm going to let them discover how to swim by themselves. No. Okay. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying. Just hear what I am saying, and that there are times when they need to learn to have some grit, to be overcomers, to navigate a problem, maybe in a way that you wouldn't even do it. So to take that step back and to encourage them in that difficulty. Now, again, I want to be careful because it's so easy on a one-sided conversation like I'm having on these podcasts. I want to be careful here because this isn't about also expecting perfection. Like I said, like when you watch them struggle, when you have an expectation set forth, you are definitely 100% of the time not going to get perfection. It's not about turning our homes into little like factories where our children never laugh, never play. They're only work, work, work. Childhood is a wonderful gift, and it is a gift our children should absolutely enjoy. Being children, loving things like playing and climbing trees and building forts and riding bikes and chasing chickens. You know what I mean? Like, give them the opportunity to be a kid, but do not confuse that with also the fact that you need to take other times during the day to train them in responsibility and in stewardship. Make wonderful memories, make those mud pies, yes, but I also sincerely believe that children were created to contribute. We are created to be a team, a unit, a family, not just individual people residing under one house. So take that and let's look at this from a biblical standpoint. From the very beginning, God created mankind to work. Yes, I said it. We were created to work. Sometimes we think that work is a result of the curse, but it really isn't. Before sin ever entered into the world, Adam was giving meaningful work. And I really like that word, meaningful. God placed him in the garden to cultivate it, to keep it, to work it. And work wasn't a punishment. Work was a part of God's good design. Yes, the curse brought difficulties in that work. So that definitely makes us kind of struggle with, hey, is work part of God's design? But what we need to teach our children is that when they are working, when they are doing meaningful tasks for the family, they're not being taken away privileges or free time, or we're not taking things away from them. Actually, we're inviting them into something that God calls good, right? It's good for them. It's good for their lives. It's good for their future. It's good for our family. And I think that culture has unintentionally or intentionally, who knows, given children the message that the world exists to serve them, that they are created for the world to serve and to cater to them, that everything is built around keeping children entertained, honestly, and keeping them comfortable and keeping them happy every moment of the day. But that is not the picture that we see in Scripture. The picture we see is families serving one another, being outward minded and focused and in servitude and thinking of others. You also see in the Bible working together collaboratively as a family team, as a unit. We see bearing one another's burdens. That's not just staying in your own little happy zone, right? You're grieving with people. You're also celebrating with people, but you are taking yourself and removing the self, right? You are thinking of others. You are being a significant part, both emotionally, spiritually, and physically, of a team. And they're using their gifts. Children and adults are using their gifts for the good of others. I love it. Even just recently on our way home from church the other day, we were conversating about one of the families that sat behind us mentioned to my children it was such a gift for them to see them in worship and following along in their Bible during the sermon. And that was just an example to me that we are blessed by others in our community, and we get the opportunity to bless those around us. And you know, it is better to give than to receive. And sometimes you don't even know you're giving if your heart is just focused on glorifying God with all of your gifts, right? And all of your intentionalities, and also in just the nuance and mundaneness of the day. And honestly, I think that one of the greatest blessings of having a larger family is being able to witness this servitude to one another, this team-like mentality, this way that we can accomplish things that I never thought we could accomplish. In fact, people often ask me, how do you get everything done? I mean, because there is a lot of mouths to feed, there's a lot of people to care for, but the answer is simple. I don't. I personally do not get everything done, but we do as a team. And if you don't know, we are a family of 10. We have 8 kids, 10, so me and my husband make 10. And we have 3 youngers, ages 3, 1, and newborn. And sometimes it does feel like they haven't quite grasped the team mentality, and they don't serve or they don't add a lot. Like if you were just looking on it from an outside perspective, but it's so sweet because when my older kids are gone, or maybe my younger kids are taking a nap or something, they miss them. They miss that teammate. And my 3-year-old, she goes out and does the chores with the kids, and of course she slows them down. But it's so fun. They enjoy being with her and doing things with her, and the laughter and the cuddles and all the things that come with those younger children to my older children. It's I mean, like, you would think the weakest link is like holding them back, but it's actually giving them like purpose and confidence and intentionality in serving them. And I just can't wait to see that transform into their adult lives. And so I just want to encourage you that even if you have young kids or if you have young and old and you're like, well, they don't really play a very like crucial role in our family. They do play a crucial role. And if I didn't have that mindset of like, these younger kids are part of our team, even if they're young, then now, fast forward 10 years, they wouldn't be part of our team. They would still view themselves as a nuisance, as the weakest link, like I said. They would view themselves the way that I view them. Right? Like I am being their inner voice. But instead of them being viewed as not a contributor, not a part of the team, just a child, I viewed them and I communicated to them how important they were to our team, and they rose to that challenge. And now if you were to come over to my house and you were to see how my 5 olders operate, you, I think, would be shocked. And I say this not to toot my own horn. Oh goodness, never would I do that. But I say this because this is the response that I get from people, that they see the responsibility of my older kids. They see the capabilities, and they see how honestly we're able to get more done as a family because we were able to view them as part of the team. And, the goal isn't just trying to accomplish more, although that is a blessing, but something that we want to focus on is trying to build something greater, like a greater purpose than just like a clean house or a productive farm. We are trying to build a household, a group of people, a team where every member understands that they have value and that they are contributing. They are a pivotal part of our team. And that changes the atmosphere of the home. Instead of asking like, who's going to serve me today? Our children begin asking questions like, well, how can I serve the family? And granted, they're not going to say it in those exact words, and they're children, so they still have moments of like, but I remember just a few days ago, like a few weeks ago, my son was sick. My oldest son, he is 11, and he was sick, and he saw that the team was doing some of the responsibilities that he does, like driving the tractor or doing the water irrigation or things like that. And he told me this, and I was totally shocked and awe when he said it. I shouldn't have been, but I was. And he said, I just feel bad I'm not helping the family. And I was like, thinking to myself, you're sick. Of course, it's fine. Just lay down, get better. Here's some tea and some crackers. What do you need? I'm here to serve you. But he was like, I feel like I'm not doing my job. And I'm like, this 11-year-old just feels the beauty of the responsibility. And it was great for him to vocalize that, because we could tell him, this is such a blessing that you're able to help the family, but we're also able to help you. It is a team, and we fill in the gaps. And so it was great for him to witness and to be part of, but it just kind of took me off guard. I'm like, yeah, wow, I miss you being part of this team. You are such a key player, 11-year-old son. You do so much around here, and we just value you so much. But also, it's okay. We all can rise up. We can all have some grit. So friends, I just want to communicate that what I'm talking about here is truly a mindset, because the mindset, if you can start it early, then transitions as they get older to embracing that responsibility even more. And isn't that exactly what Jesus modeled for us? He came here not to be served, but to serve. If our greatest desire is for our children to become more like Christ, then we shouldn't be surprised that one of the primary ways they learn is through serving others, whether that's helping make dinner, sweeping the porch, folding towels, like we do caring for animals on our farm. That's a huge responsibility for us. Or, even sweet things like reading to younger children or their siblings, every act of service that they do becomes an opportunity to teach them that real joy isn't found in being waited on. Real joy is found in faithfully serving the people that God has placed around us. And in a family unit, that is our siblings. That is our from the parents to the children or the children to the parents. Like we get to practice with those around us. And I think that's where stewardship really begins. So as I've thought about this over the years, I've realized that one of the greatest blessings that Darren and I have been able to give our children isn't a perfectly clean house or a perfectly organized schedule. It is the opportunity to become genuinely needed members of a family team. And I don't ever want my children to grow up feeling like they simply just lived in our home, like they were just part of, that this was like a hotel. I want them to know without a shadow of a doubt that they helped build our home. And I think there's a difference. Like when someone is simply living in a house, they are consuming, right? They are taking. When someone is part of a household, they are contributing, they are giving, they are serving, they are thinking of others. Now, that contribution looks very different depending on age. We talked about briefly a moment ago. Obviously, we don't expect our 3-year-old to do what our 12-year-old does, and we don't expect our 12-year-old to carry the same responsibilities as Darren or I. Responsibilities grow as the children grow. It matures over time, but that also means that we don't neglect giving our 3-year-old the value that she is part of this family, an integral part of this family, and we also give her responsibilities at her age appropriateness. So when our children are little, maybe the responsibility is simply like putting their shoes away, or carrying their plate to the sink. They definitely help set the table or pick up toys before bedtime. Those are all responsibilities that are completely age appropriate and that can be done effectively and efficiently. But as they grow, those responsibilities naturally increase. They begin to help fold laundry, help prepare meals, gather eggs so that we can trust them without breaking them, watering the garden, even watching younger siblings for a few minutes while mom finishes something. Learning how to use the things that we have, the tools that we have in our house, maybe in the kitchen or in the farm, they can learn how to use those safely as they grow in maturity and responsibility. They also are given more freedom, more tasks, and more weight that they carry in that responsibility realm. So we don't neglect them helping with projects around the property when they're younger, but then as they get older, we actually can give them the role of leadership or management over those projects. So by the time that they're teenagers, they should be able to carry a significant weight of responsibility because they've spent years growing into one of maturity and one of leadership through those small steps at a time. And I think sometimes we underestimate what children are capable of. Actually, I think we do that quite often. Have you ever noticed that children almost always rise to the level of expectations that we lovingly place before them? If we continually communicate, you're too little, you can't do that, I'll just do it, move out of the way, then they begin believing that they are incapable, that they are unable to do the things that are set before them. But if we patiently teach them, we encourage them, we allow them to practice, something amazing begins to happen. Their confidence grows and their capability then grows. And guess what? Their character grows as well. And one of my favorite things to do is to watch while one of our children is younger and learns a new skill. At first, they need a lot of help. Every step of the way, they need reminders, they need modeling, they need, hand holding. But And honestly, guys, also they ask like a million questions too, so just be ready. But it takes twice as long in those years. And sometimes that makes it difficult for you to actually release the reins and let them learn and let them go. Sometimes it's messy, right? We know this. Sometimes I have to resist that temptation to step in and fix everything, probably more than not. But then after a few weeks, and you can even see it in that short time span. After a few weeks, they can begin doing it on their own or with more proficiency than before. And a few months later, right, then they might be even teaching their young sibling, like my 3-year-old's trying to teach my 1-year-old how to do things. And I just think it's so endearing and cute and like totally a picture of what we're doing here in our home. And I think that I think to myself, I'm just so glad now looking at my like 12, 11, 10-year-old, etc. I am so glad that I didn't just ignore the process, right? I'm so glad because the goal was never simply just to get the task done, although sometimes that has to be the goal. But the majority of the time, the goal is to raise the person. Like we're raising a capable person. Yes, is it lovely if you have a clean sink of dishes? Yeah, absolutely. But that can't be the only goal, right? You know what I mean? Like, or else just hire a maid. And so I think that this is where we as parents have to be willing to think in the long term. I think our culture loves the shortcuts. We are the microwave culture, right? We want efficiency and we want speed and we want immediate results. Don't get me wrong. I fall into that trap all the time. But parenting doesn't work that way. And if you've been a parent for like 0.0 seconds, you see that, right? Discipleship doesn't work that way. Character building, teaching about Christ, all those things don't happen in 0.0 seconds. Character isn't formed overnight. It's formed through repetition, practicing, modeling, teaching over and over, and through patiently doing ordinary things like putting your shoes away, like carrying the dishes to the sink, ordinary things over and over again. And one of the verses that I come back to often is Luke 16:10. And it's where Jesus says, one who is faithful in a little is also faithful in much. And I think if we take a moment to think about that, Jesus doesn't say that someone who is talented in little things will be trusted with very much. He doesn't say someone who is intelligent and will be trusted with much. He says someone who is faithful. Faithful in the little things. Faithfulness is what God is looking for in our lives, in our homemaking, in our motherhood, in our marriage. And faithfulness is something that we can begin teaching when our children are very young. Faithfulness looks like feeding the chickens every morning, even when it's cold outside, even when it's hot outside. Faithfulness looks like finishing a chore before moving on to something more enjoyable, like free time. Faithfulness looks like returning the tool to where it belongs instead of leaving it in the yard. We are working on that right now. Let me tell you. Faithfulness looks like keeping your word. If you say you're going to do something, then you do it. Faithfulness looks like doing a job well, even when no one is looking. That's one of our family values. Those little moments are preparing our children for much greater responsibilities later in life. I also think it is important that our children understand why they're helping. Just like adults, we like to know the why. And just like on this podcast, I'm working diligently to be better at connecting the practicality or the ideas and tips and tricks and all those things, and connecting the application to the theological reason, the God-given why, because then that gives us purpose. And in our home, the regular chores are not punishments. They are not something that we assign because we are angry at them. They are simply part of belonging to a family. Every family member contributes because every family member is loved. And I think that's an important distinction. Sometimes children can begin feeling like they are employees instead of sons and daughters. And that is absolutely not what we're after. We're not trying to create workers. here is going to be like, you're going to think you're crazy, Marissa, but I'm going to tell you, we're trying to cultivate servants, not slaves. Hear me. I'm not saying slaves, servants. And there's a difference. And I want to kind of like piecemeal this out a little bit for you. A worker asks, what's the minimum I have to do to get my job done, right? But a servant asks, how can I bless someone today? And that's the heart we're trying to develop. Sometimes that means I intentionally point out opportunities instead of assigning them. And I want to make sure, like when we're doing like family worship, that we point out that we are to be a servant of the Lord, of our master. So I'll say something like this. Does anyone notice something that would bless our family right now? And almost immediately someone notices something in the room that would serve our family. Like maybe the dishwasher needs to be emptied. Maybe the garbage. Maybe someone needs to help pick up a few toys, or the shoes by the door, those types of things. And what I'm trying to cultivate is initiative, is to see the problem and to fix the problem. Because someday I won't be there to tell them every single thing that needs to be done. And I want them to become the kind of adults who naturally look for ways to serve wherever God has placed them, whether that's in their home or their workplace or their church or their community. That's the kind of stewardship that I hope that we're building. And friends, I truly believe that kind of training begins long before our children ever leave our home. So this was quite the introduction to how we are approaching stewardship in discipleship in our home through responsibilities, through a heart and a mindset of learning to serve others instead of be served. And this is going to be part one of a two-part series, a two-part podcast where we kind of just like dive into more of the nuances that come with chores and responsibilities and those types of things. So if you enjoyed today's topic, I would highly encourage you to make sure to listen in to next week's podcast as we go further and deeper. So thanks so much, and I can't wait to see you guys next week.